What's up, everybody? We are back again, Flyer Lie Podcast, episode 12. We are climbing the leaderboards of podcast episodes. I think most podcasts go like two, three, four, and then they're done. We're at 12. It's pretty good.
We're
Uh,
surprising ourselves, to be
we
honest.
are we are surprising ourselves. I'm Josh or Jish, whichever one you prefer. I will answer to either. That's who I am. Mitch is here next to me. We're here every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Normal Time, just chatting amateur golf. That's all the things that we know. We'll talk stories, information, tips and tricks. We'll interview other amateur golfers occasionally. We did that last week. That was pretty fun. We've interviewed, what are we on, episode 12? We're every other week. So we've interviewed like 5 or 6 people already. So it's pretty fun. Um, yeah, we'll talk all kinds of amateur golf stuff. So if you're into that, consider following our X account or subscribing on YouTube. We are live on both of those right now. Um, if that's interesting to you, we'd love to have a community full of amateur golfers that we can chat it up with before or after or even during the show, because we are live. And if you are here live, feel free to chat along. Toss out some topics if you want. Ask questions. We'll see it, and if you want to get involved, we'll chat with you. So we'd love to hang out with you guys as much as we do each other. So feel free to do that if you're here. For today, Mitch, we we usually have something planned out way ahead of time. I usually have notes written down way ahead of time. You usually have some notes written down ahead of time. Yesterday, actually, you DM'd me. We hadn't even talked about the show yet. You said, "Hey, let's talk about handicaps." I said, "Okay, sure, let's do that." Because you had a post the other day, Mitch. Well, it was a couple weeks ago now. That
Mhm.
went relatively viral about Grant Horvat's handicap, and I've seen weirdly, and maybe I see it all the time, but I just noticed weirdly, I've seen a lot of tweets going around about handicaps recently.
Mhm.
So it's a good. We might ruffle some feathers. I think. I don't know exactly where you stand on handicaps, net events, all that stuff. There was another viral post like a couple months ago. Somebody in the Golf X community basically said net events are the stupidest thing ever, and he got ran off the internet basically. Um,
I remember that. Yep.
anyways, anyways, so uh, that's where we're gonna head today, at your request, Mitch.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a fun conversation because I don't think everyone understands what a handicap is, how it's calculated, um, or anything of that nature. To be honest, and there are quite a few of us that do, obviously, but you get some people out there like again, we'll refer back to my Grant Horvat post that ended up going viral. It has like 1.5 million impressions or something like that. But I posted that, Grant's a really good golfer. He's like a +3 or +4. But then we went and played Justin Thomas and he lost while getting 5 shots at the start. So he started 5 under.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Thomas started even and he lost as a +3, +4. And I've played with some guys that are that level. They're really good golfers. Like they
Yeah.
can shoot a 68 or they could shoot a 75. Like they're good golfers. But I was trying to explain, the difference between how good a tour pro is and how good somebody who is a +3 or +4 is. And the differences are astronomical.
It's crazy
It's hard to
differences.
even understand the difference between those. But some people, I see the comments all the time where they think a +4 or +5 should be a tour pro, and that's just simply not the case. That's not how that works at all. Tour pros are so much better than that. It's difficult for people to understand that.
Yes.
Um, but anyway, but people were trying to tell me that Grant's like a scratch golfer. So I went back to one of his most recent videos of him and the Bryan Bros doing their uh, what is it? Their uh, making the cut at a major, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
they're playing TPC Sawgrass from the tips.
yes.
Grant shot a 1 over and a 1 under from the tips at TPC Sawgrass. And the differential there was a minus 3.4 and a minus 4.2, respectively. So +3, +4 is probably pretty spot on for Grant, maybe even a
Yeah,
little bit better. So I'm gonna throw it over to you right now because I know you're the math nerd and you love this stuff.
I
So
do love math.
I want you to explain to people how a differential is calculated and how that impacts a player's handicap, not necessarily the average score.
Right. It's the calculation is actually relatively complicated, which is a very big annoyance of a lot of people. Because everybody that wants to compete really will use them, but they really have no idea how they got their number. It's just kind of their number, and it's really difficult to calculate. So we have a couple comments here before I go into that. Noah on X says Tour pros are the real sandbaggers. Scotty always claiming he's an 8 or a 9. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that dude's a 10 for sure. Like,
Yes. Well, so that's part of the I think that's part of the problem with the calculation of handicap, because of all the things it takes into account, it can't take into account golf course setup, nor does it really take into account golf course conditions or the weather. It tries to do the weather, it's ass at taking into
yeah,
account the
it's
weather.
terrible. But what
Um,
do you mean by the course conditions? Are you talking about the greens, the rough
yeah,
conditions? Like,
like how the tour will set up a golf course versus how you and I might go play the golf course are completely different. If you are lucky enough to go to a professional event, by the way, which we have the 3M Open here. Um, I've never played TPC Twin Cities, but I know a little bit how it would play just for me and you going out there. And then you go out there and watch the event, which I do 3 times for the week usually. And it's like completely different golf course. It's the ball like it plays firmer and faster. It's not comparatively to the other golf courses on tour. It's not as firm and fast, but the ball is moving out there. It doesn't really stop like you would want it to unless you're really skilled. The flags are tucked in the most difficult places they can be. They mess around with the rough so that when your ball's in the rough, it's harder to play out of. All types of different things. They go out there and make the course harder than it is for you and I because they're so much better. Yes, Noah says they tuck the pins hard. Yes, exactly. So you and I go out there, they might tuck a pin, but it's like 10 on and 10, off the right, whereas the
mhm.
pros are like 3 on and 3 off the right. That's a big difference. That's so
Yep.
it's that when we're and this is just comparing like, +4, 3, +3, +4 handicaps to tour pros. They they deal with way, way, way harder conditions and setups and all types of stuff than we do. So the when everyone says, "Oh, it's Scotty or Tiger at their peak were 8 or 9 handicaps," sure, but also they were 8 or 9 handicaps playing at an unreal difficulty level, compared to what other people would play. So
Right.
that
And
is
I think it's important to mention here as we're talking about course difficulty that when you and I play, like we're playing off the course rating, right? And if a
yes,
course rating is a 75 with a slope of 144 for us, for a tour pro, that might be like a 77 and a like 155 slope.
yes,
So
but they don't change that for
right,
tour events, which is
right.
the problem
So
when we're talking, tour pros versus us crap amateurs. They don't
exactly.
they'll calculate the handicap, like they will do that, but they don't take into account how much more difficult the tour will make the course. um so that's part of the issue there, and in terms of calculating the handicap, the number one most important thing to remember. And I thought that we had gotten by this, Mitch, but it appears we haven't, based on
Never.
what I've seen. Your handicap is not your average score, nor is it anywhere close to your average score.
No way.
Your
Tell me a
handicap
two handicap doesn't shoot 74 every time they step on the course?
exactly, yeah, and that is another piece of scoring in golf that sort of maybe is handicap related, sort of maybe not, but anyways, so I will try and keep this without going deep into the weeds of math so people can understand. Your handicap is based on 8 scores of your last 20, if you have 20 in there. If you only have 10, then it'll do its own calculation on that. But it's based on 8 out of 20 of your best scores. So the point of the handicap is to measure your golf potential, not your golf average score. So, and honestly, that's a fine way to do it because the if you take into account average score, the range of outcomes of scores for all golfers are very wide, including pros. Pros will shoot 65 one day and they can shoot 80 another day. So they have a wide range of scores. Our range of scores are bigger. So
Mhm.
by using average score, it doesn't help you in terms of trying to compete because the range of scores are just so wide it doesn't make any sense. So using the potential is fine. Um, oh, we got Noah again. I'll get to Noah's comment in a second. So anyway, so it takes your best 8 scores, and then it takes those scores based on the course you played at, and then every course has a rating, like you've mentioned. So it takes the score that you just used or just made, and then looks at how difficult the course is that you played, and then it applies a calculation to that, and then it gives you your handicap for that round, and then you use 8 of those. That gets you your handicap. So, I didn't want to go into a whole lot of math because the math is confusing. But anyways, basically, not your average score; it's your golf potential, and then that's how that gets calculated. They try to adjust it a little bit for weather and stuff, but it doesn't really work. So it's mostly just your score versus the difficulty of the course, and then you're the best of them. That's how it's calculated.
Mhm.
Noah, by the way, says, "I don't play. I don't play events and am not a member of a club. Do you think people sandbagging or vanity capping is common? I feel like for someone in my situation, vanity cap, but someone with a club championship is more common to sandbag. I have a probably
Woo, we
unpopular
got
opinion.
stories.
I have an unpopular opinion here, but do you want to take that? I can go, but I don't think my
We
opinion is going to be
so the question is about the
popular.
commonality of that, right? Like how common is it?
Yes, that is the
And
question.
it happens all of the time. All of the time. I I would say sandbagging in a respecting or in a respectable club happens, but maybe not to the same amount as what it might happen in like a public courses men's league or something like that. They might be a little bit worse. But I've run across quite a few reverse sandbaggers in my time too. Um,
He said, "Shout
they
out
are
McCall."
love it.
He must be from the
Yeah,
Midwest.
yeah, I played with a couple people in a local tournament here, and they had put I think they had written down when they entered in or their handicap at the time. They were like a 3 and a 4 handicap, so they were in first flight with me. Um, I don't think either one of them broke 92 in all 3 days that we played.
Nice.
Not 92. Like I mean, a 3 handicap might have a bad day during a tournament and shoot in the 90s, but
Yeah.
at local courses that we've all played a bunch of times, like you couldn't shoot low 80s in there at least once. I don't know. I question the validity of their handicap versus their
Yes.
vanity on it.
Yes. My thought on this is is one, I think most, yes, I'll say most people's handicaps are incorrect. One, because I think people don't keep score correctly based on the exact golf rules of golf. I don't think, I know that people don't do that. And two, again, like I mentioned, I don't think that the handicap correctly adjusts for conditions that people play in, and that's including weather, which it tries to do and doesn't do a good job of. Weather, golf course setups can be much different and much more difficult day to day, but the rating doesn't adjust for that. Um, all kinds of stuff. So I don't even know how great or accurate handicaps are in general, but also I just don't think people's handicaps are right just as they are. Um, I think though most outrage about handicaps are about sandbagging. And
Mhm.
I think sandbagging is insanely rare. Like insanely rare to the point where it's like 0.00002% of people sandbag their handicaps. To the point where it's like, hey, I'm saying I'm a 10, but I'm actually a 5. Like I just don't, there's like
Mhm.
one person that does that. Like, so when people go and they'll play the net events and they say they're a 10, we, like I mentioned, the range of outcomes or range of scores that people shoot are so big that it is not out of the realm of possibilities for a 10 handicap to go into an event and shoot a really low score that ends up like a net 50 something. Like that can just happen as a high handicap. And every time you see it, people are like, oh, he's sandbagging. He totally lied about his handicap. Maybe, but the thing about that is, as a competitor and just in general, nobody wants to go out there and say they shot worse scores than they did. I just don't see people doing that. For the most part, people have vanity handicaps. If your
Mhm.
handicap is wrong, 99.99999% of people, your handicap is probably shows better than you actually are. Because, like I said, people don't follow the rules of golf really, so they'll take a breakfast ball and not realize that they're not supposed to do that for going towards a handicap, or they'll fluff their lie a little bit, or they do all types of stuff, pick up the balls on the greens instead of putt them out, all types of things that make your scores better than they should be. So my my thought is most of the outrage comes on sandbagging, but the actual like issue in handicaps is that most people have vanity handicaps and that their handicaps are probably better than what they show.
Yeah,
So I do think it's common to answer Noah's question, but I think the vanity cap is common. I don't think sandbagging is common at all. I think it's extremely rare.
yeah, it's probably a case of one of those. You hear the negative a lot more. It's louder than everything else, right? And
For sure.
sandbagging is negative because it's usually done by people who are trying to game the system so that they can win a bunch of money.
Yes.
I have heard some crazy stories
There
of
are there
real
are certainly
sandbagging.
stories. Certainly
Yeah,
stories.
they were kicked out of club events because they were sandbagging. Like they weren't allowed to come and play in events.
Yeah.
Um, thankfully, that hasn't happened at my club, but I have heard about it at other clubs. Um, but yeah, it's a thing. But again, like you said, more often than not, somebody is saying they are better than they are. Heck, I'm pretty sure I've done that in the past, or I've posted a slightly lower score than what it was.
For sure.
That 2-footer tap in that you just kind of walk up and hit, but you missed, but you give yourself the stroke. Like I guarantee you, every single person has done that.
Every person that has a handicap has a score in their counting score of the 20 scores. Every single person that has a handicap has a score in there that probably is wrong based on the rules of golf. I would say that's really close to 100% of golfers. And I've posted something on X before about that, and the handicap police will come out of the woodworks and like, oh, I put everything out, and I like and it's like, no, you don't, because nobody does that. So,
Mhm.
or that those people just play like 6 hour rounds, and that's a whole different issue. But Anyways, so
Yeah.
uh, yeah, the people do get annoyed about vanity caps though. People get really annoyed at vanity caps of people that are low handicaps. So somebody could be a vanity cap that is a 10, or they're showing a 10 and they're a 12 and nobody gives a fuck because it doesn't matter. However, if you or I were a vanity handicap and we're saying we're a 0 or a point 0.5 or a 1 and we're actually a 3, people will get mad about that because then they think we're bragging about how good at golf we are.
Yep.
The handicap police come out in full force for the vanity caps in that situation. I've gotten it a lot personally because um I've posted my handicap a few times and I've played in tournaments and I play like ass in tournaments, but those are the only scores people can see. So they're like, "Oh, you shot 80 in this event. There's no way you're a point 0.8 handicap." It's like, well, I mean, one
Well,
tournament score doesn't isn't going to tell you like what my handicap is. So, yeah, it's
I've come across many handicap police thanks to Twitter.
yes.
That place can be just filled with people who hate themselves, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
But I remember my coach Ryan Mulcahy. He posted my swing, and somebody had commented saying, "There's no way that guy's a 2 handicap or whatever Ryan said my handicap was there."
Yeah.
I think my low last year was 1.3. So then me and Ryan were DMing, and I'm like, he asked me for like a screenshot of my handicap, so I sent that to him. And then I went and I clipped my competition rounds for him. I'm like, just in case he fires back, here's from my competitions. Because I had a few in there that were like a 1. I had one that was a negative 0.7. Like there was a few really good competition rounds. I'm like, just in case, like here are some ones that were
Yeah.
all put it out. Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had to do that too for I had somebody that was like, "Dude, you sucked in this one event that you could find online." So then I went back to all my events and I had at the time I had played like 7 or 8 events or something and I had 2 in there that were like low 70 rounds and they were good. And then the rest of them were just in the 80s. So I calculated the handicap based on like the 8 rounds or whatever and it was like a 2 point something or like a 3 point something. And it's like it's not that far off actually. Just you
Yeah.
chose
And
to
that's
look
all
at the
comp.
bad rounds and then assumed that that meant I always shot bad rounds, which is just not true.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that is
Again, it
my
comes
favorite
back.
part about the handicap police. They just one, they like to make assumptions based on how golf swings look, which is crazy town because there are so many bad looking golf swings that can produce good scores. So many. And
Jim Furyk is the one
yeah,
everyone
that's the
mentions.
one. Yeah,
Like
exactly.
yeah. I mean, his swing was ridiculously bad. If any normal person has that swing, you're trying to fix it, but he made it work.
You know, yeah, him as one. And by the way, he was like best golfer in the world for a whole lot of time.
Yep.
And Scotty Scheffler as well. If you took Scotty Scheffler's name and how he looks, and then if you didn't know who Scotty Scheffler was, just a silhouette of Scotty Scheffler and put him out on the range and took some swings and filmed it and put it online, people would say that he was a 20 handicap watching his swing.
Mhm.
So
Well, he's steep. He slides a lot.
he's
Like
off
it's
balance, everything. So
yep.
that's what I'm saying is just when people get up in arms about how people's swings look, like this, the way the swing looks just means nothing. And then the second part is people love to just look at one score and be like, "Oh, well, he can't be. He shot 90 one time. He can't be a 5 handicap." And it's just not how. That's just that's just blatantly not understanding how the handicap system works, or they may understand and just not care. But
Yeah, man,
those
like
are
I
those are my
last
two favorite situations.
yeah, I think they just don't really understand. I genuinely think that some people believe that average score is what your handicap is. Because
Yes.
in that same comment, going back to the Grant Horvat post and Justin Thomas, somebody actually said a +3 is a natural, like borderline elite level talent, and Justin Thomas is probably a +4,
I did
which
see that.
was ridiculous. Because I went back through and I actually calculated if his handicap is based solely on the course rating and the slope, not taking into account tournament conditions, he was like a plus 7.4.
Yeah.
So like, there's just a complete disconnect of what it actually is. And I don't know what it's going to take in the golf world to get people to get over that hump and really understand what it is. Maybe it's playing more for people playing more net events, more competition rounds, and really understanding how these things work.
That probably is currently that is probably the only way to make that work. And that won't
Money
happen.
game. Get the vanity handicaps to put a bunch of money down
Yeah.
and play.
Right,
That
exactly.
that's one way for them to get it.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's I I think the only way to make handicaps make more sense to people is one, make the calculation way less complicated. So people can actually like understand how it's calculated instead of just, hey, it's based on your potential. There's this complicated calculation in the background. Don't worry about it. That's basically how it goes now. But also, I don't know how you would even go about changing it to one, make it more understandable, and also to make it more accurate. And then
Mhm.
three, of course, the main problem again is just people don't record correct scores, even if they think they do, they don't. Um,
Right.
so long story short, there's a lot going on with handicaps that just they're not good at telling anybody how good anybody really is at golf. When you're comparing like, a 1 to a 2 or a 2 to a 3, like it's not helpful, I don't think. Like those golfers could easily be the same. And say the only difference is comparing a 1 to like a 10 or a 10 to a 15. You can see the differences there because it's a much wider margin. But once you get into like the close ones, a 1 to a 2 or a 10 to 11, it's just
Yeah, they're the same golfer.
yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Which
But
is, by the way, why I personally would probably never play a net handicap event, which given the league that I am that I keep pressing in here, it might sound weird, but
you're about to
the
set off all of X.
I
Do
personally
you,
would
do you go on the record? Do you hate net events?
over net events overall that have no other requirements or anything other than it's me as a point 0.8 handicap competing against a 20 handicap. Yes, I hate that. I would never play in one, I don't think.
Mhm. But I think it's a good time to switch gears and maybe actually talk about net events, and maybe how to improve them, because
Yes.
I was actually I was talking to, going back and forth with Jake Weaver a little bit on X today, and I had told him a story about last year. I was playing in a match play out at my club. They do like a bracket every year. But I was playing against this guy who was a 5, and I think I was a 3. So I was giving him 2 strokes on the day. Um, but the kicker is that his low handicap from just the end of the previous season was like a 2.2. So me and him were like, as far as like handicap, were basically the same.
Basically the same, yeah.
I was giving him 2 strokes because he had a rough start to the season, which is how the handicap system works. That's how it happens. But it's crazy because I played the first 9 holes ridiculously good. I was 1 under par. It made no mistakes. I had a birdie and 8 pars. It
That's
was
pretty good.
a very, very good 9 hole stretch. I was 1 up, and I lost a hole because he was getting a stroke on the hole.
Classic.
Um, but he himself even said, like, he's like, he kind of felt bad. He's like, I don't really want to win a hole that way, but I mean, it is what it is. And then I kind of fell apart on like the last 6 holes that we played, and I think he beat me 3-2. I think it was.
Yeah.
Um, but so I
Match
played
play is
bad.
crazy, by the way,
Yeah,
in net events. Playing match play is just the what the handicap system does, I think it's actually it's supposed to help with match play because I think around the world match play is a little more popular.
Mhm.
Um, but the problem is like when I am playing against a 20 handicap, for example, I'm giving up, 20 strokes or whatever. I don't have the luxury of being able to take advantage of when I beat that person by like 6 on a hole. So, whether I shoot, whether I make a par and they make a bogey, and then we're dead square, or I make a 3 and they make a 7, like it just, I don't gain any ground other than one, which
Mhm.
it puts me at a very big disadvantage in match play. Stroke play a little bit different.
I
It's a little bit better, but still like I said, the range of outcomes are so large, and as your handicap gets bigger, your ability to score lower or beat your handicap, I think, is a little bit better, especially if you practice a little bit. Like it's much easier to get better and score better than it is as somebody on, you and I level as a 1 or a 2 or whatever. We It's harder for us to score better because we're already good. So um,
I think
yeah,
the interesting part with that is I think it kind of depends on what type of 20 handicap you're playing. Because there's some
well,
20
totally, yeah,
handicaps who are just like they just kind of hit it all over the map and they'll like double bogey almost every single hole. But then there's 20 handicaps who will have like 7 blow up holes, but other than that, they're pretty good. And they're blowing up because they hit their driver off the map. But when they hit it well, like the rest of their game is decent, so they can get around pars, bogeys a lot. And it's really tough to beat a 20 handicap who does it that way versus a 20 handicap who's going to double bogey every hole.
for sure, yeah, yep. And that's exactly why I would playing just a straight up net event. I would probably just avoid it because of that exact reason. There will just be people playing in which they are getting a lot of strokes and their ability to score in a way that will take advantage of those strokes is much better than my ability to score as a lower handicap. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
personally would never do it unless the events are flighted.
I was gonna say flighted events make it a little more fun because then you have like the 3 to 6 handicaps together and those people will compete fairly well typically.
Yep.
But I offered this to Jake is that like during a match play, for instance, you go off the 12-month low handicap and then 90% of that. So for me, my 12-month low is a 1.3. So I would play off like a 1.44, I think it was. Um, and then, if somebody's at 2.2, whatever that happens to be, right? I think that makes it a little more fair, especially for us in the northern part of the country where we typically see our best scores in like our best handicap in September, October,
Yep.
because we've had all season long to play. We're playing really well in prime form. And then we might start off really slow if you haven't had time to, go and hit balls in the winter, go
This
play
year, for
somewhere.
example, there's still snow on the ground, so
Yeah.
you
So
know,
when you get out on the course here in the next week, hopefully, knock on wood. Um,
don't jinx us again, please. You've already done it twice.
I know.
I'm ignoring the one that I did. That was too long ago now, so now it's on you. You're the
Yeah,
jinxer now.
that's my bad. Anyway, like in April, May, right? You're mostly just knocking off rust. Your 3 handicap might run up to a 5 or 5, maybe a 6. Like it can jump up a little bit. So if you go based on that, it's like, well, no, that player's still really good. They're just starting off bad because they haven't played for 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that it is an issue up in the northern states here or, anywhere around the world that has an off season basically. Um and also the length of time in which people post score, like people will just not post scores or they just don't play enough for their handicap to even kind of match where they are. So like you said, your last 12 months, which is a year's a long time, you can do some damage in 6 months if you're really trying hard or not playing at all. um And then, in that time frame, they're like people may not play 20 times. So now you're taking again that wide range of scores, and you're not even using the maximum amount of scores to calculate your handicap. So who even knows how close it is? Um, yeah. So
Mhm.
there's just I just have so many issues with that, and that's just playing like really really competitively, like in an event of some sort where there's no buffer. You know, there's no protection on either side really. I mean, I don't know why, unless there's a 20 handicap out there that just knows how good their potential could be to beat their handicap. Like I don't know why they would want to play either against me, even when it's net. So I do like the idea of flighted though, but I think in flighted you go into a flight and then the handicaps are gone. Everybody's the same. So you're just playing straight up. If I'm a one, and the handicap group is 0 through 4, a 0 and a 4 are just playing straight up. That's how
Mhm.
I think it should be. That way the
Yeah.
competition
100%.
is fair,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Yeah, and typically, I don't know. I've only played in a couple of flighted events, but in the ones I have played in, it's like anyone who's a 2.9 or better is in championship flight. Anyone who's like a 3 to a 5.9 is in first flight, and then 6 to I think it's like 9.9 or something like that,
Hmm.
second, on and on and on. And I think it's relatively fair. I mean, when you get in a championship flight, you could probably argue that it's not. Maybe they should have an additional flight in there because if you start putting some threes up against some plus threes or plus fours, depending on
Yeah,
who
that gets
comes
a
to
little
the
sketchy.
tournament, like
Yeah.
yeah, the threes are never going to win. But
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
but I mean, I like those more than straight up net events. Even though I actually won a net event at my club last year, which was
Look at
cool.
you.
But don't tell anyone that it was one of those where I think they
No
had the
bragging.
course. Yeah, the course handicap for me was a 5, and I went out and I birdied the first 3 holes.
That'll do it.
Yeah, so dumb. Like putts were just dropping for me, and then I shot like a 74 two over for a net 68 or 73. Yeah, net 68. So I mean, it worked out for me.
Yeah,
That being
heck yeah,
said,
it did.
I would prefer the flighted events
Yeah,
myself.
I think flighted is the way to do it. Um, Speaking of flighted events, by the way, we can plug the Land of Lakes golf tour. How about that?
Oh, let's do it. Plug it.
Since we were going to do it then, but we might as well do it now. By the way, if you are into flighted golf events, the Land of Lakes golf tour is brand new in Minnesota this year. It is a flighted tour. So you join and you play events against people that are in your handicap range. The cool thing about this is it's not 1 day events like most other tours are. You got to play on like a Friday morning or a Wednesday afternoon or something like that. And if you can't make it, you're out of luck. This is much more busy person friendly. That's how I'll put it. It's every event is 2 weeks long. You play your one round anytime you want during the 2 weeks, and it'll count towards your score. So if you're super busy for a week and a half and you can only play 1 day in 2 weeks, perfect. It works out. You don't have to worry about having to show up on one single day and play against everybody at the exact same time. You can kind of play whenever you want. It is a tour like all other tours. It kind of follows the same path as the PGA Tour does. There are majors. There is an end of the year like FedEx type race, so you can win prizes and stuff for every event, or there, the year long race at the end, all that good stuff. So, if that's interesting to you, um, there is a discount going on when you sign up. We extended our early bird pricing throughout the entire year, which is great, or throughout the entire sign up period. So if you want to play Land of Lakes Golf Tour, look it up and sign up and use the code LOON, which is our state bird here. You get 150 bucks off, I believe, off of the price. So it's like 300 bucks to get in, which is very, very inexpensive for a year-long tour. So yeah, and it's flighted, like I said. So, which is why I get to plug that now instead of at the end. And I'm the director of it, so that's why I get to plug it.
Love
Anyways,
it.
uh, where were we before I did that? Were we still being
We were
annoyed at
talking
net
about
events?
flighted events a little bit,
Where are
but
or are oh yeah, we are still annoyed about the net events. We did, but we don't want to get run off the internet.
I'm
I don't
not.
I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
I'm
not
not going to be
totally
mad at
against them. I,
anybody
I
for
think they
doing
have
it.
their. Yeah, I think that events have their place. I think they can add some fun competition um, for people. You know, I do think some people out there, not everyone, I know most people want to get better at golf, but some people like to keep their handicaps higher because it makes them more competitive in net events.
Yeah,
And again, that I think that's a small fragment of people.
I think so too.
Um,
Yeah.
but they're still out there, and that's kind of annoying because if I guess maybe it's just my personal goal is to get as good as I can at the game. And when other people are trying to gamify it just so they can win their gambling on Saturday morning, I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah. It's
But
again,
yeah,
I'm just going back to the it's personally when I go and play around or play with or play by myself or play with friends or whatever, I don't want to go to the 19th hole afterwards and have a beer and tell somebody I shot a worse score than I did. Like that. I'm trying to brag about good scores. I don't want to shoot a 79 and then go into the bar and hang out with the boys and be like, "Boys, 84 out there today wasn't super great." It's like, "No, I'm going to brag about I broke 80, boys. I shot the 79." So, I it's a maybe it's just me, but it feels like that's a mental thing that you have to have some type of thing going on that's just somehow your brain is wired enough to like make that feel okay, and I don't think it's very normal at all, or I shouldn't say normal, I don't think it's very common. So,
right.
and also I also want to make sure I mention, if you really enjoy net golf or net just straight up net events or whatever, you play golf however you want. I don't I don't care. I
Yeah,
also don't I also don't care if your handicap is right or not. Personally, I know how I personally do it, how I like to play, how I feel good about playing. You should also play however the hell you want to play. If you want to kick your ball around the golf course, go ahead and do that. I don't care. Unless we're competing, of course, and we have to follow the rules of golf, then it's different. But 99% of golf is not that way. So if that's how you want to do it, and if you love playing net events and you think it's fair, that's fine by me. I don't care. You do it however you want to have fun with golf. That's fine by me.
now we're just saving face, but
I'm
I
I'm
I
not. I am
no
very
I
I'm very adamant about people, because there are the handicap police or just the golf police in general. They're like, you have to play a certain way, you have to wear slacks when you play golf, all this stuff, and it's like, I don't, I people should, the game is hard enough. We don't need to make it more difficult or more annoying to play. If you want to go out there and wear jeans, even though jeans are the most uncomfortable piece of clothing in the entire options of things you can wear as a tire, if you want to wear jeans on the golf course, you go ahead and do that. Like, it
yeah.
doesn't matter. You have fun however you need to have fun.
Yeah, I would agree. We the game of golf is supposed to be fun, and people should play it however you want. I think I guess where we're probably coming from is our point of view of how we want to play the game, and also if we're going to play, match play against somebody, or if we are going to play a money game against somebody, we want to play against people who have the same mindset as us.
For sure.
So it's about trying to get better. It's about trying to play respectfully, and it's it's not necessarily about winning money. Obviously, I'm competitive. I know you're competitive, and we want to
Would
we
love to
want
win.
to.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's also about having fun at the end of the day, and we want to play with people who have a similar mindset.
For sure. Yep. Yep. I also probably have to think about this some more. I probably would not ever play like a handicapped game for enough money that mattered to me with somebody that I don't know. I
No, yeah,
will. I've played. I've played with my buddies who are range anywhere from a 4 to a 20 handicap, and I'll play net against them, give them some strokes. But that's because I know who they are. I know their games. I know what is actually fair versus just straight up looking at handicaps and doing it. So I will do that. But again, like I said, just because I don't think people's handicaps are real in general, I have no clue how somebody I don't know plays or doesn't play, or how they keep score or not keep score, or how honest or not honest they are. Um, I don't think I could ever do that. And everybody says, by the way, if you want to get better at competitive golf, go play somebody for money that matters. It's like, well, that's a great idea in general if you know that you're playing somebody at your exact skill level, or if you know exactly who you're playing and how they play. Otherwise, you could just be putting yourself in a situation where you can't win and you just don't know that. So it's like,
yeah, that's a fair point. I personally, I don't like playing for money with people I don't know, like in any for any money, is because it can make things weird. And
that
if you
too, yeah.
don't, then, like, just go out there and have fun if you don't know the person. If you know them, I don't even like playing for that much money. A 5-5-5 Nassau, 10-10-10, something like that. Maybe play for a beer. Like, I try to keep it simple so that it's still competitive but also friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The all the stories you hear about people that are throwing all the just crazy amounts of cash out, especially against people that they don't know. Or you'll see people on Twitter that are like, "Oh, bring your bank account, we'll play for whatever money," and then they actually just do go play. Like that just feels crazy to me. So and again, kind of like you said though, we are competitors. We love to compete, but also fun is the number one goal. Otherwise, we wouldn't really be doing this. So that to me, playing golf like that to me sounds extremely not fun. So I'm with you. I also would never do anything more than just fun money that I can just take out of my back pocket and not have to think about again.
Yep, exactly.
So
Well, with that, do we have a tip of the week for people?
I don't.
I did not think of one yet, but if I were, I'll go with this one because I saw it on Twitter today, and I actually do like the drill. I've done it in the past. I've snapped several alignment rods trying to do it.
Uh-oh.
Um, Ryan Mulcahy, he put up a tweet. I think it was today, a thread about putting up an alignment rod about five paces in front of you on the driving range, and then trying to start the ball left or start the ball right, and then ideally, curve it around it. So, for me, one thing I've been noticing in my swing over the winter is that I'm kind of opening up a little bit too quick, and my hands are getting out in front of me, and I'm coming across the ball
Hmm.
and getting a little too out to in. So with this drill, what I'm going to try to do, because I have a pull cut pattern, is I want to try to hit a push draw. My goal is to set up that alignment rod, start it right, and then curve it around back. The goal with this would be to get my club to shallow out a little bit more and access the ball from the inside. So how is that necessarily going to help me and maybe help others? Is it'll help to neutralize my club path to get it closer to a zero, and it'll give me the ability to just understand how to hit a draw. So, like, if I'm starting to lose on the golf course, I'm hitting more pull cuts than normal,
Hmm.
I can just try to go back to that feel and hit it. But I think this is a really fun drill. It's an external drill. It doesn't take a whole lot to set up. You're not really thinking about uh, technique or fundamentals. You're just trying to shape the ball around a stick. But that's really all it is.
That is fun.
Yeah, but it's a fun drill. So if you're somebody out there who has a hook pattern or a slice pattern, just put an alignment rod 5 steps in front of you on the driving range and do the opposite of what you normally do.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. By the way, I do have a tip now. I just
you do
decided.
good. All
I
right.
do. My tip is if you are a person that struggles on the internet with looking at somebody's swing or looking at somebody's score and hardcore judging them for what their handicap is, please make sure before you use your little fingers and start typing and say, this guy is not that good, his handicap isn't that good. Before you do that, make sure you understand exactly how the handicap system works, exactly how the numbers are calculated, understand everything about golf that is necessary to understand how somebody's handicap might be what it is before you start typing away and saying this guy sucks, he's a sandbagger or a handicap. That's my tip of the week is do research before you start yelling at people for their handicaps.
I like it.
How's
That
that?
might be the best one. You are absolutely going to clip that,
I will
and
clip that.
hopefully it goes viral because that is exactly what Twitter needs to hear. All of the golf world needs to hear, and maybe the entire internet.
Yes. Well, the entire internet does need to hear that. Uh,
It just sometimes people on the internet they just need to.
there is no personal experience involved there. Maybe.
Yeah, I think I mean I know I've done it, but so there's so many times that I've had like a tweet typed out. I just delete the whole thing. I'm like, nope, just don't do it. Start over.
Same. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I was the more I thought about it, the more I annoyed I about it. The more annoyed of handicap police I got. So
The handicap police are annoying.
yes. All right.
But do we have any more comments?
No more
Nothing.
comments. We can last week we went long, so maybe we go maybe we finish up 7 minutes early today.
Yeah, that's
How's
fine.
it sound to you? You wanna close us out of here? Cause
Oh,
you're
we will
cause you're
wrap
good
it
at
up
that?
nice.
Hell yeah.
All right, everyone. If you haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you tuning in, chatting with us. It's really appreciated, really helpful. So go hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell. We're live here every Thursday, most Thursdays, unless Josh's computer explodes at 8 p.m. Central Normal Time.
Yes. And the computer won't explode anymore, I promise.